Okay, so we're just getting into this Blue Letter Bible app, and we're looking up words. You know, the one we looked up just now is earth, and we're trying to define this. And we got some great Bible scholars here in the room, and I'd like to discuss this. What do you guys think? Yeah, eretz. Should we kind of look up this definition of earth? What is eretz? It says land, earth. Earth, whole earth as opposed to a part. Earth as opposed to heaven. Earth, inhabitants. Land, country, territory, district, region, tribal territory. Piece of ground, land of Canaan, Israel. Inhabitants of land, Sheol, land without return, underworld, city, state. Ground, surface of the earth. Ground, soil. In phrases, people of the land, space or distance of country, in measurements of distance, level or plain country, land of the living, ends of the earth. Oh, that's a good one. Almost wholly latent usage, lands, countries, often in contrast to Canaan. Let's see, eretz. From an unused root, probably meaning to be firm, the earth at large, or partitively a land. Common, country, earth, field, ground, land, Nathan's way, and wilderness world. Okay, so you know, like I gotta figure out how to scroll this down. There we go.
There's a lot there that you just went over that I think is worth stopping and looking at.
Okay.
Particularly the whole idea of land and the difference between soil and land. And when we start getting into like countries, oftentimes people overlook the fact that countries were like tribes and clans of people. The land was named after people that come from women and men, as opposed to soil. Tribal territories, you know, now you have entities, city states, districts. You know, there's a whole bunch going on there.
Well, those are all just artificial overlays.
They're artificial?
They're just artificial overlays, yeah.
Yeah, well, they're concepts that constructs of man, right?
Right. Well, both concepts and constructs.
Yeah,
exactly.
So Bryan, when you just said artificial, you were making your comment pertaining to like districts and regions, territories and country, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just artificial. I mean, you can walk all around, look at any kind of satellite footage you want, and you're not going to see any boundaries anywhere.
Right. Like you have a lot of people saying,
That's
hey,
one
we
of the
should
cool things about
guard our borders.
Oh, sorry.
You got all those people saying, we need to guard our borders. We can't have those illegal people coming over here. I'm like, whoa, I'm just saying. What were you going to say, Lori?
Yeah, but that has to do a lot. That has a lot. Well, that has a lot to do with the idea of a family being a nation, which is different, guarding the family and the nation, which is different than the construct that he's talking about, which is one of the reasons why Lex, who's on here, his territorial jurisdiction has been wildly successful, the challenge, because, you know, there's the idea of these are our boundaries and our borders, but really that doesn't necessarily describe geographic location.
Lex, would you like to add anything to that?
Oh, hello? Can you hear me?
Hi.
Oh, hi.
Hi there. You can talk a little louder.
Oh, okay. Wasn't sure how loud I am here. Yeah, to add on to what Lori's saying, it's the idea that, yeah, physically there aren't borders, just like I believe Bryan was saying. If you were to look at a bird's eye view from a so-called satellite or whatever, yeah, you don't see hard borders or anything, but there's the idea of borders. We act as if there are borders, but the borders are really in our heads that we're just overlaying onto the land. And which touches upon what Lori mentioned. It's like you try to come to a meeting of the minds with the other, whoever you're dealing with, that there either are or aren't these imaginary borders. So as long as you can come to a meeting of the minds as to whether there are or aren't, there is or is not a particular border in place, that's just as good as if there's a physical one there or not.
Yeah,
So
I think it reminds me,
physical or virtual, it doesn't matter as long as it's,
it does remind me of
but I know
sociology,
that's,
how we all as a society can agree that something is something, like money is money or something, you know? We come to an agreement.
right. I
Or
mean,
even the definition of society, that's where you start getting into the borders and the boundaries that are laid out through our thoughts.
Mhm.
You know, like, for example, the state of California it's a corporation, right, for tax purposes, but it's not necessarily a geographical location. It's more of like their own definition of the location. And how this, you know, because really the Bible is all about inheritance, land, kingdoms, structure, societal regulations and stuff. So it's interesting how that ties in.
Mhm.
Well, the state of California has a geographical location. Where's their capital at?
Sacramento.
It's
The
at
state of
San Jose, is it? Sacramento. So the location of the state of California would be Sacramento.
well, it's more than that.
I'm just saying from the legal standpoint, from man's legal standpoint. If you were to look it up through like maybe UCC or whatever, that's the same thing as what they've got the United States listed at. The location of the United States is Washington, D.C.
And it's more than that. Geographically, it is more than that. Maybe that's where
No,
it's based
no,
out of.
I didn't say, I said legally. That's where its legal location is.
Oh yeah, yeah, okay, like where it's based out of. Okay, yeah.
Well, but even then, we get into the construct of the overlay, like what he's talking about. Like it, you know, in Bereshit, in Genesis, the beginning of Isis, it's the whole idea of, when we bring this back to the scriptures, is that something was created and then all of a sudden it was in disarray, right? And probably because
Right.
there were some territories and jurisdictions involved. That's my guess.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's going back to the gap theory or whatever, what the word was.
What does was mean now? It's reminding me of Bill Clinton. What does the word is mean?
Well, the word that they used, that they took was from, could have been translated became or to become, but they choose was instead of, I don't know why they didn't choose the verb. They should have chose the verb because that's what Hebrew does.
I agree, Brian. It's an action language. It isn't this
Exactly.
lofty concept. It's actually action.
Yes.
All right, H 1960.
And
Here is the word was.
so I think right from the very beginning, they were deceiving everybody.
Here's all the meanings.
Well, I think what they did,
To be.
I think what they did actually, from my own research, is that from the many of these councils, Jamnia and Nicaea, many of them, that what they did was they hid the other scrolls or cuneiform, more often than not, that actually fill in the gaps of describing what happened in between these sentences. And what they've done, the people who hold the secrets, is that what they've done then is they use oral language, or they have their Talmud, or they have the Midrash to transmit that data privately within their little initiated society. That's what I found.
They don't want the peasants to know the secrets.
I guess we're not peasants then anymore, are we?
No, absolutely not. Yeah, you remain a peasant until you start really learning the truth.
We're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. So this says ChaYah. Let me see how they pronounce it here in this Blue Letter Bible.
Strong's
Hee-haw?
1961. ChaYah. ChaYah.
ChaYah. And it says right
Hi-yah.
here, ChaYah.
Hiya, 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 hiya.
Kind of
Hi,
sounds
how
like
you doing?
a Native American tongue.
You're
It
right.
Oh,
is. It's
Yeah.
A lot of the Hebrew sounds like Native American. A whole lot of it does.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
well, yeah,
Oh,
but that has
that's interesting.
well, that probably has to do with the fact that this land is actually a continent that a lot of people don't know. And there are many, actually, like Shem's Bible, like there's lots of in stone writings that were a form of Hebrew or Aramaic that's found all over this continent.
Mm-hmm. I heard about that.
Yeah, they found a bunch of stuff written on stones like up by Michigan and Ohio.
Oh yeah, where I'm from, the
And-
land of Goshen, even.
In fact, I was listening to an archaeologist who found a bunch of like weapons or weaponry around Michigan and Ohio,
Mhm.
like spears and stuff, but it didn't it didn't look like it really fit with what he normally finds. So he sent it out to have the metals tested to see what those metals were and where they were indigenous to. Those metals were indigenous to the Middle East.
Yep.
Oh, do you have a feeling
Well,
that
and that's
maybe
funny.
all the whole earth could have been connected and just kind of, I don't know, like what
Oh,
Pangea?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it says that-
absolutely. The whole
it says-
Pangea.
Yeah, it says that in the Bible before the earth was divided. And
Yeah,
of course
Peleg.
that
That's what
comes
Peleg's
after-
name meant.
Yeah, Peleg. Peleg.
Peleg, right. And
Let me look it up. Peleg.
who's my ancestor? You know, me having the name control holder of Ever, which is also considered Eber, that before the land was, because all the land was granted back then after the deluge and the land was split.
Right, Peleg. Let's see if we can look it up. The word search.
That goes back to, God, what was the name of that
Here he
guy?
is.
He did the
Right here.
search for the Garden of Eden.
Here he is, right here. Oh, Peleg. All right, who's that? Who's getting ice? Is that John on Merced? Okay, so let me see.
So did you hear, you heard the whole, you saw the whole Eber? If you look in Hebrew, it's Ever.
Oh, this one right here, you
which
want me
I
to click
control
on it?
that.
Should I click on it?
Yeah.
5677.
Sure, if you
Hebrew.
like.
See how it says H? That means Hebrew. That's because it's Old Testament. Okay, so Eber or Heber, the region beyond. Aber. Oh, Aber. Let's see how they say it. Let me just see how they say it.
Strong's H 5677. Aver. Aver.
Aver. Aver.
Well, yeah, because the B for bait, sometimes depending on how it's formed, is also vet,
Yeah,
vet or vet.
vet, yeah.
So it's like it when you read it, it reads Eber, but when you enunciate it, it's Ever.
Okay. I know that last name. Okay, so let me just go back one because I wanted to look at Peleg. I saw him. Okay,
Yeah, Peleg was a son of Shem.
yeah.
And
and
Peleg,
it-
Shem was,
when the earth got divided,
Sh-
that's what it was.
Shem was,
That's what his
you
name.
know, Shem was, when you start looking at the more ancient scrolls like the Atrasis and the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Enuma Elisha, all this starts to make more sense. And it describes these initiates who were really far advanced. Like when you think about like Enoch was translated and he was also this Anak. He was also the scribe for the watchers
Mm.
and a king.
Here's Peleg right here. Let me see how they say his name. Peleg.
Strong's H 6389. Peleg. Peleg.
All right. And so Brian, you were saying right here, down here, division part, like his name, he was called that because that was when the earth was divided right here. To Ever were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided. Boom. Are you talking about when it was all Pangea and it was all one thing and then it got divided?
Right. And then it split up. And archaeologists have even looked at the rocks along like the northeastern coast of the US. And then they could do a comparison of that to rock in like northern England, maybe even Scotland. And they see that it's all the same exact rock.
Oh, wow.
You know what else is interesting, Brian, if I can add there? You know, earlier when we were looking at the
No,
definition-
absolutely not. Absolutely not. You can't add anything.
You
No.
stop it. You better stop it. It's your unbirthday today. So when it was talking about the land of Canaan, right? Because it says, like in Joshua, when I bring you into the land, you are to take down their temples and statutes, which are codes. But where I'm from originally, which is the land known as Ohio country, there are the mounds of the giants. And right when he's talking about the whole area of Michigan, like when further along, when you start studying what Solomon was doing, the copper mines are really well known up in Michigan.
I got some.
Yeah, the Indians in northern Michigan used to deal in a lot of copper.
I got a copper bracelet. Thank you, Brian, for telling me about that. I did have another guy tell
Our
me.
central nervous systems are
Made the gray hair.
our
go
central
away.
nervous systems oh sorry,
That's-
they're made, one of the part is copper. It's
Hmm.
a crucial element of our central nervous system.
Yeah, I take ionic copper as a supplement.
My neighbor was getting rid of his copper cup and I was like, can I have that, please? So he gave it to me, but I don't know, I'm afraid. How do you wash that? How do you wash it?
Brian, I really want some of your organite, Brian. Man, some of that stuff that you're making is just, I love it. I just want to say that on the record.
You know, when I first was looking into it and stuff like that, and I recommend people watch Barn on YouTube because he does the best explanation of making it. And you know, once I got done researching all of that and everything before I started doing anything at all, I was like, you know what? Because I was going to buy some. Like, you know what? You are way better off learning how to make it yourself and making your own than you are buying it from somebody, because it's going to have your intent, your energies, the stones that kind of spoke to you that you purchased to put into it, all of that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, actually, I did a research too when I got really into Wilhelm Reich and
Yeah.
the work that he did. Of course, they killed him, but you know, I made organite for a while, and I have an accumulator that has a Lemurian sea crystal in it and a plug-in for an MP3. But it's really amazing because I ended up putting a bunch of like grade A semi-precious stones in it, so that it resonates with all the different frequencies. But I like your intent, and I think that at some point I'd hope to acquire some of your organites.
So I just wanted to share you guys this blueletterbible.org up there. I mean, it's way easier to me than using the eSword, but eSword is cool. But this one is really cool. Like if you ever want to look up a word or a verse, you know, you put it right here and you put whatever translation you want. Got all the different Hebrew, Greek, all the different ones. Obviously, if you're going to put in a Greek one, it's only going to have the New Testament. If it's going to be the Hebrew one, it's going to only be in the Old Testament, because that's kind of how they translate it. Even though we know that those disciples also spoke, you know, in Hebrew.
Yeah.
Somebody's rattling. Hey, I totally thought that my
I think it's,
meeting started
I
at
think,
6, but it starts at 7.
sorry.
I guess I got so excited. I started an hour early, which is fine because we have another one coming up right after this if we run out. We have 7 minutes left on this, but I thought that this would be kind of cool to, if you guys never used this before, this is really good for coming in, you know, looking at the definitions and stuff. But go ahead. What were you going to say, Lori?
Oh, I was just gonna say, point out, if you notice, Hebrew Chaldee lexicon. And the Chaldeans are an interesting tribe, if you will.
This one here, Hebrew names.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
This one, Hebrew names version.
Well, when you go down to the lexicon,
Wait a
I
minute.
had an interesting experience a number of years ago. I was up in Michigan and I'm dealing on a blackjack table and it's all females sitting at the table. And I go up to the table to relieve the other dealer and I look around the table and I said, just on a hunch, you are all Chaldean, aren't you? And they all looked at me. They're like, oh my God, yeah, how did you know?
you said that?
It's like I could spot a
Yeah,
Chaldean
that's
girl.
awesome.
Yep, I could. I was I could, and I don't even know if people even identify as Chaldean anymore. I don't think they do. You know what I mean?
What is
So
Chaldean?
nobody would know that unless they
Right,
really were
right.
Chaldean.
What is that? Chaldean.
But I was
That's
like,
rad, Brian.
I was like, yeah, I can spot a Chaldean girl in a heartbeat.
What do they look like?
Especially sitting at a gambling table.
Yeah, what's a
Natives.
Chaldean girl? Tell us about it, Brian.
Go to the Great Oracle, go to Google, and punch in Chaldean females.
Would that be Middle Eastern?
Yes, yep. That's Iraq, Afghanistan, in that region there. But you're gonna find that they've got like maybe a little higher cheekbones, like the American Indians do,
Oh,
Yeah, just like them.
and very frequently blue eyes or hazel eyes.
really?
Hey, that's what I have.
Are you a Chaldean girl?
I don't know.
I hope you're not a Chaldean female, because that, the connotations and implications are
I
rough.
don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't. This is the first time I've ever heard of Chaldean females before. You're telling me something new here. Unlike the East Semitic Akkadians speaking Akkadians, Assyrians, and Babylonians, whose ancestors, Mesopotamia, of the Chaldees. Oh.
Yep.
I
Okay.
told you that was where I was from, right?
You know that city,
You are.
Yeah, I do. I'm from there, actually.
You
Literally.
Are? Really?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, in fact, it's funny because my friend has a land patent or a grant from her great-great-grandfather that says Jerusalem from that area. It's really interesting.
Oh, this would be fun to read. Remember, is it the Book of Jubilees or Jasher, where they talk about Abraham, where he came from, and his father came from Ur.
Jasher.
Well, it's
Yeah, that'd
actually
be-
Asher.
Yeah, that'd be Jasher. Yeah,
Asher. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's my family Bible.
or
actually.
Yasher.
Yeah, they say Yasher, but yeah, it is actually Asher, who was one of the tribes
Yeah, I've heard.
of Israel. Mhm.
Okay.
I just shared something from the Book of Yasher today, as a matter of fact.
Did you really?
Well,
Yeah.
it says in the Tanakh, the Old Testament,
Uh-huh.
that when we ascend to our thrones, that we're supposed to have a handwritten copy of the law. And so I did a bunch of research on my genealogy, which took me back. Well, first there's the Shem Bible that not a lot of people know about, and the Book of Jasher. And that's why what's interesting is that when you look at the fact that you have the Geneva Bible, right? Then you have the pedophile King James. because when he ascended there, that was what he had written by the scribes. And that's why there are so many different versions of the Bible, if you ask me.
I heard that King James had his version done so that he could remarry. That's what I had heard. He had done that so he could remarry.
No, actually, that was actually birthed out of the Hampton Court Conference because they were having problems within the people. And so they thought, put all the people that are having problems with each other together and have them create their own Bible that will help unify them. It was
Right,
a
and
kind of a
that's when they got,
psychological trick he pulled on the people.
and that's when they got rid of the marginal notes, right? And some of the footnotes that were in the Geneva Bible.
Right.
Which
Yep, there's
they
not
really,
supposed to be, yep, no commentary or footnotes. Yeah.
you're right, because you know, a lot of people don't recognize it, and I didn't, that the quote unquote the Bible is actually, you know, when we talk about case precedents, that's what it actually is. It's about land and territory and commerce and banking. And so they didn't want that those extra details to get out to their mind controlled slaves, or which those are the ones who are seriously brainwashed. The rest of society as a mass has more to do with indoctrination.
I like, if I use a King James, I like using the Thompson Chain Reference Bible because in the margins, it gives you a link where you can go and look up like all the other verses that talked about the same thing that that verse mentions.
Hey, you guys, we're
So
having.
instead of it having like marginal notes or commentary, it just links you to it.
We have less than a minute, and if you want to just re-click on the same link, we can do this again, or we can talk about something different. But this is going to end in any second now. So just re-click on that.
Okay, I'll come back.
Thank you. I love that you are wanting to come.
Yeah, I'm interested for a little bit more.
Cool.
Although I do have to do some IRS forms.
Oh,
And they were